Now, I'm aware that I'm primarily talking to salespeople and sales managers, and I want to talk about financial independence because financial independence is not about retirement. That's right, financial independence is about empowerment. Now, those working with a week-to-week paycheck are way ahead of anybody in the sales force because to them it's easier to become financially independent, and they'll become financially independent far sooner than those in the selling field, irrespective of the fact that so many of them will be working for far less money in hand week to week. Now, those in sales on a salary plus commission also will find it hard to become financially independent, far harder than those working week to week on a salary. And more importantly, those on commission only are the ones that will find it the hardest to become financially independent. Now, primarily, I want to address those people that are selling based on a retainer and commission, because we all know the more we sell, the more we earn, and the more we spend. So if you're on a retainer plus commission, there is a way that you can get on top of this and start to save money for whatever purpose you want. Now, firstly, use as much of your retainer for your living expenses. Many of us will need to use a whole retainer for the living expenses, plus then also draw on some of the commission in order to stay on top of the situation. Now, to do that, I'm going to recommend that you budget what you need to save every week. That's right, write a budget for it. And then you also budget what you spend, which means spending over the top of your retainer, spending for all the other expenses you have around the house, plus utilities, and also spending for your outings at times where you can go and enjoy yourself, because you don't want to cut all of that out completely, otherwise you'll despise the fact that you're saving this money. And you know what will happen? You'll soon have money in the bank, and you'll find that within the first, second, and third month, it'll start to grow quite well. But you know something else? It won't last unless you have a purpose for that money, unless you've got a goal for that money, unless you've got something beyond your reach that money will buy you, like a house, investments, cars, etc. Now, to round this segment off, I want to encourage every salesperson to be the best they possibly can be, because at one stage, I was actually promoted to estate manager of a multinational, and in fact, possibly the best estate manager in the country. And with that came a salary, personal commission on any sale that I personally made, an override commission for everything sold in the state, an open-ended expense account, because I had to do a fair bit of work after hours. And when I travelled, and I travelled a lot, I was given a per diem which covered my expenses, my food, and my accommodation. So for about 4 years, the company paid that money into my bank account, and I hardly had to draw on that bank account because I was living off my expenses. And in fact, after paying my taxes, I actually saved more than 3 times the average annual income of most people on a salary. That's right, more than 3 times. So if I can do that, and I survived at a much better living standard than most other people, and I actually set up for my future, I'm going to encourage you to do the same, because it's all there for you as well if you want it to be. Now, I want to bring up a warning here, because in my early sales career, and because of my ability to sell and also manage salespeople, I had a number of companies approach me to come and work for them. But this one company that approached me with numbers which were so high, the least I thought I should do is to investigate what this company was doing and why the earnings were so high, because the other managers were so happy with what they were earning. So I joined the company, and the first thing that happened after I'd gone through my initial training, I was given an office, one of 20 offices around Sydney, to manage salespeople. Now, what actually happened there was quite frightening, because the first thing I was told by my PA is I had two offices. One I could work in, the other office to avoid working in, because should the consumer affairs people ever turn up, that's the office they were led to. They were given a cup of tea and just left to sit there and wait. Well, 15, 20 minutes later, they'd come back and say, "Where's the manager? I'm still waiting." They say, "Well, he's on his way." And you would never turn up. And eventually they got sick of this waiting and left. A couple of weeks later, I went into a group management meeting, and what I saw there actually not only appalled me, but frightened me to death, because we as managers were encouraged by the company to actually get the salespeople into debt. The company at that stage was experiencing an extremely high turnover of salespeople, and they devised a way of keeping those salespeople on board, and getting them into debt was one of those ways, because then they'd have to sell up a storm to get out of debt, and they were paying really good commission, so they had nowhere else to go. So they were encouraged to buy new cars, in fact, luxury cars. They were encouraged to buy things like boats or commit to very expensive holidays. And then they'd get up to debt to their neck, and guess what? They'd have to work even harder and sell even more just to get on top of the debt. Now, I don't mind people in sales earning extremely high commissions and doing extremely well, but I do draw the line at people having to get into debt rather than keeping the money to improve their financial outcome. They have to keep on paying off debts. I think that's wrong. And if any one of those people ever got sick, they'd be in a position where they couldn't pay their debts and possibly lose a bunch of their assets in the process. That, to me, is not good management, and that, to me, is not ethical. So if you're working for one of these companies, I would suggest you find a way out of there as soon as possible, and make sure you never find another one to work with the same ideology. Now, here's a well-known fact that very few in sales ever act upon. That is, those that achieve financial independence by becoming very good at selling and end up earning really good money are usually poor at holding on to that money. And as they say, easy come, easy go. And how true that is with so many in sales. So if that's you, create a host of bank accounts, one for investment, one for any other purpose, one for your bills, one for your savings, and one for a rainy day. Now, if you do that, you'll hold on to your money. The most important thing is, every time you get a commission check, distribute that commission check into each of those accounts and hold some over for your own spending money as well. But if you don't do that, you will more than likely spend that money on the most pressing things. In other words, whatever bills come in, whatever joys you might have at the new restaurant that you've just seen down the road, or whatever else you may choose to distribute that money into. No. Put it in those bank accounts first. Put it in the appropriate bank accounts first. And you'll find that you'll not only hold on to your money, but you'll have a lot more to work with.